Hey y'all. Okay, this one is going to be a little intense. So, we're going to do a quick countdown. Hey, Freddie. How are you today? I see you're ready to go. Hey, Yuli. How are you? All right, y'all. We're ready to go. So, we are going to discuss a little bit deeper into this Tim Ballard Sean Reyes connection today. And I figured, why not use the man who basically knows everything that's going on and has been looking at this for years to do that? Hey, Lorraine. So we're going to just go over and we're going to actually go over to KUTV first. We're going to go there first. So you guys can, if you missed this last night, this is continuing. We are continuing on our coverage with the Tim Ballard lawsuit, the allegations against Tim Ballard, the Sean Reyes, who is the Attorney General of Utah's connection to all this. And we're kind of breaking it back. So we're just going to kind of pull it back and talk about some of this, because the big thing is there's an allegation that, oh, thank you so much. Hey, Mom of Gladiator. Hey, Much Endeavors. We're going to talk about how people have been saying recently that this just came out of the blue. This came out of nowhere. This just happened because Tim was going to be announcing a Senate seat run. Well, that's definitely not the case. This has been going on for a while. And I think people are kind of not really understanding that this has been going on for a while. So let's just hop into it. Hey, Daniel. Yeah. Well, Autumn's not here yet, but Autumn made a great point in one of her comments. Autumn and I seem to comment in the same places all the time, but this is really interesting. So I'm going to let you guys listen to it, and then we're going to hop over and listen to Lynn's.
All right, welcome back to 2 News at 6. Governor Cox is saying there should be a criminal investigation now into allegations against Tim Ballard.
But should the Attorney General's office conduct that investigation, given Sean Reyes' apparent friendship with Ballard? It was one of the questions that Brian Malahy put to the governor today. Brian.
Yeah, and there are multiple women that are...
Sorry, y'all. It's their volume. It's not very loud. I don't know.
Are now alleging sexual misconduct on behalf of Ballard involving a so-called couples ruse. Ballard, of course, the high-profile human trafficker.
Okay, I know that was a slip-up. I get it. I understand that was a slip-up, but Kyle and I found that to be just hysterical because he calls him the high-profile human trafficker. Hey, Britt. Brenda. At least your trolls got some good sense of humor today. But I thought that was crazy to hear him say. He calls him a high-profile human trafficker.
Today, the governor said, yes, it's important to note that Ballard is presumed innocent until proven otherwise. But he also says in this case, it's also important that justice is served.
For 12 years, I've been an undercover operator for Homeland Security.
Drips of allegations against Tim Ballard have now filled a bucket in the public record.
Should there be a criminal investigation?
I think yes. I mean, I think that prosecutors would have a duty to investigate.
Governor Cox notes a previous investigation into Operation Underground Railroad, the anti-trafficking group Ballard used to lead, resulted in no charges. Then the story broke of explicit accusations of sexual misconduct against Ballard himself. The governor says what's alleged appears to be criminal behavior. Ballard and Attorney General Sean Reyes were together on at least one Operation Underground Railroad mission and may be close, which leads to this question over any investigation.
You'd be comfortable with it being within the AG's office?
I would be comfortable just because I know those attorneys. I work with them all of the time, and they're incredible professionals.
So he would be comfortable with his AG's office reporting this, right? Like going in and talking about it. Pay close attention to the next line.
The Attorney General's office reiterating today Davis County investigated, no charges. It also said, quote, unless someone comes forward with different information, that's where it stands. Either way, our office is conflicted out and can't touch it.
Anyway, our office is conflicted out and cannot touch it. So where do we go from there? So if there needs to be a criminal investigation done, the Attorney General's office is conflicted out and cannot do it. I mean, how many attorneys in the office have something to do with Tim Ballard and O.U.R? Why are they all conflicted out? Anybody can answer that? Hey, Marie. Victor, who knows? Maybe too much tanning. I don't know. Maybe the bleach. I don't know, honestly. But so where do we go from here? So if Governor Cox says that they need to look into this, the AG's office is standing firm, 10 toes down, claiming that they're conflicted out. Where do we go from here? And I need to remind you too, there was a whole petition started in 2021 over Sean Reyes's involvement in the January 6th issues. Again, I know you don't want to talk politics, but it is what it is. Ooh, do you? AKA the cat lady? Okay. Ooh, this what? Where are we going from here? And by the way, Sean Reyes, for those of you that don't realize this either, Sean Reyes, the Attorney General of Utah, took seat in the AG's office months after this nonprofit of Tim Ballard's was organized. Months. And the reason why Sean got in office is because there was allegations of criminal corruption by the previous Utah Attorney General, who ended up resigning, and Sean took over. So for 10 years, they've had a conflict of interest. So is that why all these complaints that supposedly were mentioned in the lawsuit never went anywhere? I don't know. What do you guys think about that? All right, now we are going to switch gears. So people continue, I said this in the beginning, people continue to try and say that this came out of nowhere, that Sean Reyes, Tim Ballard, all of this stuff, nobody was aware of these allegations. This had never been stated before. No complaints had came into the Attorney General's office. None of these allegations have any merit to them. We've heard it all. Like, they've downplayed it. They've said it was a smear campaign because it got leaked that Tim was going to run for a Senate seat office. Well, that's just not the truth at all. And who to tell us better about that than one of the best investigative journalists that covers Utah stuff himself, than Lynn Packer. So we're going to go on over to Lynn's channel. Lynn's channel is actually pinned at the top of the page in the comment section. But we're going to let Lynn walk us through some of this because I find this to be very important. This was done. This video was posted on YouTube September 12th, 2020. Over 3 years ago. All right. And yes, I'm going to be pausing it. Please go give Lynn a like if you are interested in this topic. I know that this is kind of a topic that a lot of people don't want to touch, but this is such an important topic and it's only going to snowball from here. But let's look at this.
I'm Lynn Packer with part 2 of my video op-ed about Tim Ballard and Operation Underground Railroad, often referred to as O.U.R. Part 1 dealt with whether O.U.R. is a scam. Part 2 deals with whether O.U.R. is history in the making, goes deeper into the Sean Reyes factor, and lists allegations against O.U.R. First, I'll talk about the question, is the O.U.R. flim-flam history in the making? Could Operation Underground Railroad become recognized as the most sweeping fraud in Utah history?
A note on that, Sean Reyes has built his platform as this phenomenal Utah Attorney General because he's a fraud buster. Basically, he was going to take that down, and human trafficking. Those are like his two big sticking points.
Is Attorney General Sean Reyes a perpetrator or a prosecutor? Could an O.U.R. scandal further cement Utah's reputation as being the fraud capital of the United States? These are samples of headlines over the years. Stock fraud capital. Utah, the fraud capital. Do we have a fraud law? Utah must get tough on con artists.
Utah is also known as the MLM capital of the United States. I don't know if it gets the worldwide title, but it is definitely the United States title.
Even more recently, this Deseret News headline, does Utah deserve the title fraud capital of the United States? The article concluded it does.
Remember, this is 3 years ago, y'all. 3 years ago, this stuff was circling around. Lynn is absolutely a hero, Lorraine. I admire this man so much. He absolutely, AKA the cat lady, 100%. Hey, Kay, hey, Cash. This man has done, yes, he really, really knows what he's doing.
Check out Attorney General Sean Reyes's website. He asks, is Utah the fraud capital of the United States? He says, yes. Yes, we are. Then consider the unthinkable, that any attorney general who should be prosecuting major fraud is a participant in a major fraud. With Utah's reputation in flames as a fraud capital, an attorney general should be putting out the fire, not pouring gasoline on it. Instead, Sean Reyes is part of the problem, not the solution. Reyes's fight against human trafficking is his signature issue as Attorney General. His website says, Attorney General Sean D. Reyes has been a leader and an international voice in the fight against human trafficking. Reyes is a big part of the O.U.R. fundraising machine, often appearing with Tim Ballard at donation appeal rallies.
This is still Utah's seated Attorney General right now. He's been in office for 10 years.
In late August this year, Reyes spoke at the Republican National Convention. A Utah newspaper summarized the appearance, saying, Utah Attorney General Sean Reyes used the stage to promote his signature issue, the fight against human trafficking, and lauded the Trump administration for making historic strides in combating it. Reyes's RNC speech is often referred to as his warrior spirit speech. He said he was a proud descendant of warriors. He said, my father demonstrated his warrior spirit over 50 years fighting a dictator in his homeland, the Philippines, barely escaping with his life. Then he compared Trump to his father by saying, President Donald Trump is a fierce warrior against human trafficking.
My father demonstrated his warrior spirit over 50 years ago, fighting a dictator in his homeland, the Philippines. Barely escaping with his life, he started anew in America. He lived the American dream, building businesses, a family, and seeing me become Utah's first minority statewide elected official. Today, I channel my warrior roots by battling human trafficking. I've been able to lead some of the largest trafficking prosecutions in America and traveled to foreign countries, working with law enforcement and NGOs to dismantle trafficking networks and rescue people from the most brutal conditions imaginable.
Interesting that some of those trips were with none other than Tim Ballard. Absolutely, HS. Abso-freaking-lutely. Lynn Packer and Damien Moore from American Crime Journal. I put his link into the description too. If you want investigative journalism that is spot on to, it's mind-blowing how good those two are. The two of them together are incredible. They are absolutely cherished and should be protected because let me tell you, for people that want the facts and the truth, that's what they get with Lynn.
young girls and women sold into sex slavery, young boys and men forced into labor servitude. President Donald Trump is a fierce warrior against human trafficking.
This photo shows Reyes and Ballard at one of many O.U.R. fundraisers. Who could it be that calls these two guys idiots and calls Ballard an ego run amok?
Quite a few people, actually. Truthfully, Lynn, there's quite a few of us that call them idiots, but let's figure out who it is. Any guesses of who it is that calls them idiots? You guys want to play a game? Who do you think called them idiots besides all of us? Yes, Lynn's great. Just hands down great. I have, a lot of respect for him. Any guesses who it is? And if you watched it, you can't say. That's cheating. Right, Cash? Yeah. Like, they use humanitarian issues, though, and make them so divisive.
Who said those things? It's former FBI Special Agent Greg Rogers, who worked child sex trafficking cases for the FBI. He was a guest on the How to Heretic podcast. Rogers said human trafficking has become an industry. It's a very successful way to raise funds, and that Operation Underground Railroad is a very successful money-raising venture. He referred to Reyes's RNC warrior speech. He noted that Reyes raises an immense amount of money talking about human trafficking all the time. But Rogers said Reyes and Ballard speak nonsense. He said human trafficking is real, it's a terrible thing, but it's not happening in the ways these idiots are talking about. Rogers criticizes O.U.R.'s basic concept.
It's just crazy. It's a nonsensical way to approach the problem. And a bunch of private citizens in the United States can't run around the world with AR-15s and act like they're jumping out of planes and going into brothels. I mean, that's not a way to fix this. And if you really understood the problem, they would know that while you may have some success in taking these young children out of these brothels, you've helped those young children you took out that day, but they're replaced the following day. So
Right.
you did nothing to solve the larger problem.
Now, remember, this is 3 years ago. So these allegations that you're about to hear, see, all of that, you're fine, Helen. You're totally fine. Tell her I said hi. These allegations have been swirling. When people are like, oh, no, this isn't what it's going to be. This is just a smear campaign. No, those are extremist conspiracy theory bullshit that they're trying to spew into this, because all of these guys have had those same extremist beliefs, in my opinion, for years on end, and have gotten away with a lot of shit, in my opinion.
The FBI wouldn't work with O.U.R., Rogers said. He said, I actually set them up with a meeting in Thailand to meet with our assistant legal attaché there. Ballard came over babbling about having Navy SEALs drop into the country armed and hit places. Rogers made a quip about Sean Reyes's warrior speech.
But wait a second. On that note, hey, Michael, why would they be dropping in when they're flying first class? Have you guys ever seen a paramilitary operation out of first class airplanes? Anybody? Have they ever said, hold on, we got people that are going to jump out of first class and land? And why wouldn't the Department of Homeland Security work with Tim Ballard, since he was such an amazing agent for the department when he worked for them? Why wouldn't the FBI work with them then? Some of these things kind of sound a little fishy, don't they? Well, it's because it is.
At the RNC, Rogers was a little nervous. Reyes was going to hawk a dance and rap. The RNC didn't give Reyes enough time to dance and rap like he often does at O.U.R. fundraisers. I will give him the time.
This is Sean Reyes, the Attorney General of Utah. So proud, right? So proud.
I'm Ali, yes Ali, aka Cassius Clay. You want to take my title, best step away. Political pugilist, I don't play. You feeling lucky, punk? Come on a minute, I dare. Cause I can rope a dope, give you hope, take your best hits. And when I'm standing there smiling, you know I'm legit. You'll be punched.
Who was the warrior in Sean Reyes's RNC speech? It was his father, Norberto Buddy Reyes, who died in March of this year.
Just a side note on my petty side, can we get rid of the skinny jeans in these 40-year-old men in Utah? Can we please? Like, they all have this look about, I'm telling you, there is a look to these men. You can point them from a mile away. They all, yeah, craziness.
He was a Mormon.
Here's about his dad.
He worked part-time as an artist and as a filmmaker and as an Elvis impersonator.
Well, you may go to college, you may go to school, you may love a pink Cadillac, but don't you think nobody in school? Baby, come back, baby, go. Come back, baby, go. Come back.
But Buddy Reyes's main job for 35 years was multi-level marketing, MLM.
And didn't we just hear him say in his RNC speech that his dad was living the American dream, his warrior spirit? Meanwhile, he was a part of an MLM for 35 years in Utah. Okay. Can we just all give Lynn a huge shout out? If you're not subbed up to Lynn, his link is pinned at the top. Lynn is honestly a hero in my eyes in a lot of these stories because he has been so thorough about his investigative journalism with all of the scandals in Utah. He's incredible.
It's a business that so many Mormons engage in. He sold and would have recruited a downline to sell door-to-door National Safety Associates NSA products. They started off with home fire alarms, then moved to water and air filters, and then finally sold Juice Plus dietary supplements. NSA over time was hit with a barrage of lawsuits claiming it was a pyramid scheme and that its salespeople made false claims. Indeed, Sean Reyes said his father would pray on his knees for hours over his endless legal struggles. I wanted to protect my dad, Reyes said. I thought I'd become a lawyer and stand up against the guys persecuting him. I wonder if Sean Reyes ever considered if any one of the lawsuits against his father was legitimate.
He wanted to persecute the guys that were coming forward and being factual and shut down the truth. And just so you know, too, this has a little bit of an odd take to it, too, because Tim and his buddy made an MLM, too. It's called Freedom. And it is supplements, like enhancement supplements, like protein powder, get buff stuff. And it's called the Freedom brand. And it's an MLM, too. Yeah, there's a whole lot of promotion of that shit, too. So the apple doesn't fall far from the tree with these guys.
Eventually, Buddy Reyes formed his own MLM. It was the Mormon-centric Glowing Heart Society Foundation. Buddy Reyes claimed his MLM was different, that it was really not an MLM.
Before I share with you what it is, let me first tell you what it is not. That way we won't have any misunderstanding. Our program is not, and I repeat, is not network marketing or MLM. It's absolutely different. Since our system generates wealth through selflessness and compassionate service. Its emphasis is on an extraordinary and much needed self-empowering education with a humanitarian mission.
What does that sound like to you guys? To me, that sounded like a whole lot of gibberish for you to not ask questions. Like, it sounds good, right? Oh, don't worry, it's not an MLM. We're going to take that out. No big deal. People aren't going in debt every fucking day because of MLMs and losing everything they've worked their asses off for over MLMs. And, we'll just completely disregard that. That's what it sounds like to me. This typical shtick of an MLM. How do you know you're not an MLM when you have to say you're not an MLM the very first opening line?
Through his MLM, Buddy Reyes marketed a disease cure-all named Geosol. It was a homeopathic preparation consisting of trace amounts of silver in water, retailing for $16 for an 8-ounce bottle. It was similar to other colloidal silver products on the market. It really attacks all kinds of diseases, Reyes said. It's better than any antibiotics there are because this one kills both bacteria and viruses. Colloidal silver cures have long been associated with ultra-conservative Mormons and with Mormon-related multi-level marketing schemes.
Those extremist beliefs again.
And by the way, colloidal silver products are legal in the United States, but making false curative claims about them is not.
It's actually against the FTC.
Back to Sean Reyes's warrior speech, where he likened Trump to his father. And there were similarities. Both were idolized by Sean Reyes.
Right.
Both promoted fake universities. Both promoted quack disease cures and nutritional supplement ventures. Both were involved with multi-level marketing schemes, and both were very vocal activist opponents of human trafficking.
Now let's put that into place with Tim Ballard. Tim Ballard is idolized by Sean Reyes, and well, Sean Reyes and Tim kind of have a mutual thing. I don't know what you would want to call it. He's promoted, in my opinion, fake speaking engagements and these operations. He's promoted extremist conspiracy theories such as QAnon and things of that nature, which his own statements, you can find that yourself. He is involved in an MLM, so you can throw Tim in there with the mix of them too, and it all lines out about the same.
Buddy Reyes, like his son Sean, claimed child kidnapping is going on in Utah. When I interviewed Buddy in 2016, and I did the interview in the state capitol rotunda, he told me.
Well, I should say this. You can feel however you want to feel on this man. I am just giving you the information that has been out here, that has been gathered by everybody else, things that we're finding as we're going. This is kind of like a snowball event. So this all spins off of The Sound of Freedom, for those of you that are confused. So when I started covering the movie The Sound of Freedom, and the fact that Betty and Annie from 10 to Life and Olivia and all those guys were promoting the movie The Sound of Freedom, I started digging into it. And O.U.R. was a foundation that I know people that have supported it, along with, we had no idea that the connection of all of this. So it's Kyle's fault. He got me in the rabbit hole of things. And I had known some of these things around the church and other things that were going on for years. Well, I didn't realize it was all one snowball. And I came out and was very vocal about The Sound of Freedom and why it was so much bullshit and the harm it does to actual trafficking victims and the mission of people trying to fight against trafficking, and how troubling it is when you spread misinformation about serious situations like this, especially when you're using influencers to do so. No, you're good. I'm just giving you like a little once over for those of you guys that don't know how we ended up here. And then as this was going on, by the time I got moved, from the time The Sound of Freedom came out, we were critical of that. By the time I got moved, all of these allegations actually started rolling out deeper and deeper through Vice articles. Big news articles were covering this stuff. And then it just became this downhill spiral. So that's how we got here to begin with. You are entitled to feel however you want to feel about him. I personally think he's a disgusting human being, but that's just based on hundreds of hours of research at this point in time.
Sean gave him a badge and appointed him an agent for the Utah AG's office.
Yuli.
He said Sean sent Buddy on a mission to rescue 2 Utah girls who had purportedly been kidnapped and transported to a remote mountainous region in the Philippines for organ harvesting.
Who does that sound like? Who makes claims like that? Oh, Tim. But that was Sean's dad that, yeah.
Reyes said Mormon girls command more money for their cleaner kidneys because they don't smoke or drink. He said the two kidnapped girls had been smuggled to the Philippines to the remote area. But he said he created a strike force, set up a command center, and gathered intelligence. He said he took his team up the mountain, being led by pygmies armed with poison arrows. He said they encountered a rapid-fire machine gun. The bullets were zinging past them.
Being led by pygmies armed with poisoned arrows? Where do these guys get their stories? Who writes them for them? They have some incredible imaginations, I tell you what. Autumn, yeah, she was promoting it. She was one of the first ones. Well, her, Betty, and some other people on YouTube were promoting it, of course, but she absolutely did promote. Yeah, yes, Autumn. She was promoting this. I had issues with her and her coverage on other things previous to that, but she's just a misinformation spreader. It's all about engagement with that one. It's not about the truth. It's just about lining her own pocket. That's what it is for a lot of these people. It is what it is.
We were armed to the teeth with submachine guns, M1 rifles, but I only had a 45 caliber pistol because I was leading, Reyes said. But instead of returning fire, he said he led his team in prayer. I told them I don't care what religion.
But instead of returning fire, he said he led his team in prayer. Who does that sound like? Tim Ballard has said almost verbatim things like that. Y'all, this is just.
Religion you are. I'm going to pray, and you pray with me. We're going up there with angels surrounding us. Nobody is going to be killed. Try not to kill anybody. Our goal is to save the teenage girls. He said no one was killed, and they rescued 63 body part slaves.
63 body part slaves. Now, yes, does this happen? Unfortunately, it does. It absolutely does. But
besides rescuing body part slaves, Reyes said he also fought against evil forces and sinister bacteria. Here's what he posted on his Facebook page. We got a very strong intel that a major attack on Christians will be done on Christmas Day, where they will be beheaded in front of movie cameras beamed worldwide to embarrass the USA and to recruit more terrorists.
Tell me this does not have similar conspiracy theory views. Tell me this is not super insane to hear. And this is the genetics of who is sitting in office currently in Utah as the Attorney General, the top law enforcement official.
Here's another one.
His father.
There's also a deadly bacteria that has no cure, released by a neighbor country via their artificial plastic rice to depopulate the Philippines by 2 million people. Those who have ears, listen.
Did we just find Q? Anybody? What is, when I listened to this, I was like.
Speaking of machine guns, a news report said Sean Reyes keeps a machine gun in the corner of his Capitol building office. A real machine gun whose bullets are tucked away in an office safe, the article said. Reyes says, we've made this a secure place, but if we ever had to protect ourselves, and if the Hawaiian and Filipino weapons aren't sufficient, he's referring to other weapons in his office, then I've got real firepower. He's laughing, but he's serious, the reporter wrote.
Okay, he's got a real machine gun sitting in his office. I guess that's pretty typical. I mean, I guess in Utah, that's kind of the way of how things are, but oh, that's a whole, what Sheila's talking about is a whole shit show that absolutely was horrifying and disgusting. Right, Cash, what? Cash,
Reyes also has a badge and carries a concealed weapon.
I wonder if he's got a press pass too, printed off from the internet, like Betty. Betty, I found you a man.
After all, Reyes bills himself as an NRA candidate.
Nothing, I mean, to each their own there. Your beliefs are your beliefs. No big deal there. But some of this other shit is real concerning.
Utah's major news outlets have given passes to Reyes and O.U.R.
Up until recently, they sure as hell have. And they're still not even being extremely transparent.
Shouldn't even call them news outlets anymore. They're more like PR arms for Reyes and O.U.R.
Band-Aid.
These are examples of typical purported unvetted facts like Channel 2. There's 100,000 children in the United States forced into the commercial sex trade. Fox 13, thousands of kids are being smuggled into the U.S. every year, forced into sexual slavery, labor slavery. KSL, there are 2 million of these kids being exploited sexually. The Trib, O.U.R. Aftercare Director Jessica Mass said the organization is also committed to taking care of survivors and following up with them for the rest of their lives.
Is that the survivors that were part of the Children Need Families section of it? I'm just wondering.
Channel 4, there are more than 2 million child sex slaves worldwide. The Deseret News, Operation Underground Railroad merged with the Elizabeth Smart Foundation earlier this year. Almost all major media reported about the purported merger. The collapse of Utah journalism is ongoing and the bottom is not even in sight. News reporting on Operation Underground Railroad has been a travesty. Most of the reporting over the past 7 years has been done with no regard to truth-seeking and fact-checking.
Remember, just another one. I'm going to say this until I'm blue in the face because there's some amazing allegations. Oh, Yulie Jade, yes. Hey, Mimi Innovate. Elizabeth Smart Foundation actually was trying to work with O.U.R. They basically used the face of Elizabeth Smart and her dad, Ed, to kind of be the face. But they pulled away because they were so unhappy with how things were being ran. There's a whole other section of that in that fallout in 2015. That was a big deal, but nobody wanted to report on it. Nobody wanted to talk about it. Nobody wanted to bring it to light. But yes, there was absolutely issues there. But Lynn did this 3 years ago. So be prepared when you hear these allegations that are coming up, when you realize that how many they have convinced that this was just a smear campaign because Tim was going to potentially run a Senate or announce a Senate seat run. That's what we've been told, right? By all the buddies, all the friends. Just wait. Buckle up.
Who knows how many millions of donated dollars resulted from bootlicking journalism? Utah media have engaged in what is referred to derisively as stenographic journalism. That is taking down and reporting only what Reyes and Ballard say in speeches and put in press releases. As an example, the supposed merger between the Elizabeth Smart Foundation and O.U.R. It was highly publicized. The merger was used to solicit donations. Elizabeth Smart was put on the board of governors, and her father, Ed Smart, was named director for prevention and rehabilitation. Reyes was quick to exploit Elizabeth Smart's fame as a kidnap victim. Here's the truth. A merger never took place. Ed and Elizabeth Smart broke off the relationship. Ed Smart left in disgust, dissatisfied with how O.U.R. was actually handling the aftercare of purported rescued child sex slaves. Utah's mainstream press did not report on the breakup or explore why the merger it reported never happened.
But they came out, all of the media came out and used that as this big, huge deal that they were merging, they were working together. They used Elizabeth's face, her story, everything like that. Now, remember, I told you guys previously that O.U.R. reached out to a friend of mine, somebody I personally know, and asked to share her story as a part of their fundraising campaigns, which she was a victim of horrible shit. And they wanted to use her story as a fundraising opportunity. However, they had nothing to do with anything. But Utah journalists, they went along with this whole thing too and never came back and, redid anything. Shocker, right? No.
Here's another example. The media's failure to vet O.U.R. statistics.
Big deal here.
A KUTV report said, according to a press release, human and child sex trafficking is one of the fastest growing and most profitable crimes found throughout the United States. The United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime reports there are more than 20 million people currently enslaved in human trafficking worldwide, 2 million of them being children. There's the report. They're saying it said 20 million current trafficking slaves, 2 million children. That's what they say. Read this again. United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime reports there are more than 20 million people currently enslaved in human trafficking worldwide, 2 million of them being children.
Think to recent times when you've heard Tim in his speeches, just as of recent. This was from 3 years ago. Those numbers would have changed. They would fluctuate. This is another example of just pulling statistics and numbers out of the air and throwing it on something and saying, oh, that sounds good. Googling something, finding something easy and saying, oh, that we're going to work with that, right? This would have changed.
Is that true? Here's what the report actually says, and it includes a graph. All you have to do is read it. It says in 2016, a peak of more than 24,000 detected victims was recorded. There's no mention of 20 million currently enslaved or 2 million of them being children. It's 24,000 versus 20 million. O.U.R. inflates the number more than 800 times. O.U.R. has a legal duty to...
And what's the purpose of inflating the number? What would you guys think is the purpose of inflating that number? Let's talk about that for a second before we continue on. Why would you think that they would inflate that number to make it sound good? Oh, wait, because then it makes it sound like there's a bigger issue and he's this bigger hero saving all these children. And this is being hid from all of us, right? That we don't realize that this is a way bigger issue than it actually is. And he has to be the one to solve the problem. There's 2 million kids out here. Absolutely ego-driven, fundraising, money. It is so important to be factual because this is actually harmful to real victims of trafficking. This is so harmful. All of the millions of dollars. Think about that. We were breaking some of that down yesterday. Think about the millions of dollars that went into O.U.R. for first-class plane tickets and expeditions out of the country to all these countries for massage parlors and strip clubs and booze and whatever else activities they wanted to do. This shit's really disturbing when you consider that this is a report that Lynn did from 3 years ago. I really highly encourage you to go over and watch Lynn's videos. If you want investigative journalism that tells you exactly what was claimed, how it was said, how it's debunked, Lynn is fabulous. Fabulous.
To document its claims, it didn't. Reporters are free to fact check the claims. They didn't. So I did. I called Vienna, Austria. I left a message and also emailed the UN's research expert on trafficking in persons, Fabrizio Sirica. He's the one that wrote the report. He responded via email saying he would get back with a detailed response, but in the meantime, he said many things of what you asked clarifications for are indeed not accurate information that keep on being reiterated. That indicates he's aware people out there are citing unproven statistics.
They know. 100%. I've actually made a few phone calls and people are not shocked when we're trying to get statistics. It's really hard because to track down exactly like who oversees and collects this information, but you'll get a few numbers here and there, but it's nowhere close to any of the organizations that I have called this far have not even been remotely close to 2 million.
The last section of my op-ed lists alleged improper and illegal conduct. The items are unproven. It could be.
All right. Heavy on the alleged unlawful and improper conduct. Remember, going into these allegations, these are allegations. These were not 100% factually proven. It's hard to vet some of this stuff. But I want you to remember, now we've been told, and what we're supposed to believe is this is just a smear campaign against Tim. There was nothing wrong. This just came out because it was leaked to the press that he was going to run for Senate. Okay? I got to set the stage for this because this is pretty big, if you ask me. And this debunks their whole theory of this just came out of the blue, which we all knew wasn't true anyways. But for anybody that was questioning it, still, here you go. Now, I want you to think about how similar some of these allegations are to the ones that we've been reading. Granted, they don't name Tim as the one behind them. However, it's kind of up for interpretation. Again, allegations, let's go.
Be true, but some or all could originate from former employees making false accusations. Why is most of the list unvetted? O.U.R. refuses to comment on any item on the list. O.U.R.'s major corporate sponsor, doTERRA, won't do an interview.
O.U.R.'s major corporate sponsor, doTERRA, for those of you guys that don't know, doTERRA is a huge Utah MLM. They sell essential oils, and they're a major MLM, which is a multi-level marketing, in my opinion, scheme.
Former O.U.R. employees won't talk. Ballard required employees and volunteers to sign non-disclosure agreements. Several I contacted fear Ballard's wrath if they talk.
O.U.R. employees that had worked with O.U.R. feared Tim's wrath 3 years ago. And people think that the victims have nothing to be concerned about.
That said, here's the list of unproven claims. Some donor money was used to pay for first-class flights and 5-star hotel rooms.
That was listed in the lawsuit. As far as first-class flights, that is listed in the lawsuit currently, today, against Tim Ballard and everybody else listed. But this came out 3 years ago.
Some jump team members were drunk and on drugs while on raids. Some jump team members possessed and traded child pornography.
Huh? And why are we calling them jump team members? Because they flew first class. There was no jump team involved.
Family members hired by Ballard misappropriated donor funds. Donor funds were used to pay for the honeymoon of a jump team member. Donor funds were used to pay for Ballard's personal trainer. Some purported child sex slaves were never trafficked prior to O.U.R. running its sex party stings. Some jump team members engaged in sexual acts with purported child sex slave victims.
Now remember, there is the conversation about Paul Hutchinson. For those of you that don't understand, there was an incident in Cabo where we'll just do a whole thing on Paul Hutchinson and talk about that because Lynn detailed that, interviewed Paul. Paul's been Paul is probably one of the ones I like out of that whole side of things the most. He's not my cup of tea in any way, shape, or form, but at least he was a little bit more honest than most of these guys. But look at that list of allegations. 3 years ago, this list of allegations was posted on Lynn Packer's channel. 3 years ago, this list was posted on Lynn Packer's channel of things that were being said about O.U.R. and Tim Ballard. And Davis County attorney closed an investigation into Tim Ballard and O.U.R. And you have Sean Reyes, the seated attorney general for Utah, that's been in office the entire 10 years that O.U.R. has been in operation, that is conflicted out and cannot do an investigation on this. Kind of sounds like the perfect storm for getting away with a lot of shit, huh? Oh, Utah is 100% the fraud capital of the world, in my opinion, but it's also a part of the government in the LDS Church, in my opinion.
An O.U.R. volunteer was
These are heavy.
sexually assaulted while on a jump.
An O.U.R. volunteer was sexually assaulted while on a jump. One volunteer told me she was fondled by an O.U.R. operative during a mission. Now, names aren't made. There's no names in this. But be mindful. Again, we are being told that this was just a smear campaign. There's nothing behind any of these allegations. Why are these same allegations available to find from 3 years ago? Why did nobody look into this 3 years ago when everybody started talking about it? Oh, wait, it was talked about before 3 years ago. Why didn't the victims have a voice then? It gets worse.
On this note, one volunteer did tell me she was fondled by an O.U.R. operative during a mission. O.U.R. funnels some donor money through its for-profit arms entity, Deacon Incorporated, and that O.U.R. arms entity purchased illegal black market guns and ammunition. O.U.R. takes credit for some operations not conducted by O.U.R. itself. In this note, I don't see anything wrong if O.U.R. funded that particular op. A Ballard jump team member who used to work with him in Homeland Security claims Ballard falsified his past experience as a government agent.
A Ballard jump team member, they claimed that they were doing these paramilitary rescues and going into other countries and like busting the traffickers. So a jump team member would have been what people assumed was going on. Like they were jumping out of planes undercover, that's what they made it out to be, that these were these high paramilitary operations going into, horrible places in these third world countries and rescuing children in the middle of the night kind of thing with guns drawn and all this. Meanwhile, they were flying first class to strip clubs and massage parlors. Not that it doesn't go on in those places, but the two things just don't. But that's what a jump team member is somebody that flies first class. However, they've made it out to be that they were doing these paramilitary things. Oh, AKA, I just love Lynn. Don't tell, Kyle knows I have a crush on him, but Lynn is like my one. He's so fucking smart. If you want to know what turns me on about a man, intelligence, good looking. Kyle's really intelligent too, though. So it's crazy. What'd you say? I wonder if Tony Robbins had pretend wives. Autumn, I've been in that hole. I need to do that, but I'm just not there yet 100% on Tony. But I've even got Tony's pictures of when he was undercover too on some of these ops. Oh, let's continue on. Some donors have pulled out because of suspected bad conduct. No shit.
And some donors have pulled out because of suspected bad conduct.
Oh, I love it.
Here's what O.U.R. should do to put all allegations to rest. Be fully transparent, answer all questions. Go beyond minimum Form 990 disclosure requirements. Disclose in detail all donations and expenditures. Provide all director meeting minutes. Release records associated with subsidiary organizations, Nazarene and Deacon. Fully document all fundraising pitches. Provide the names and current status of all arrested traffickers and the names and current status of all rescued sex and labor slaves, and release all employees and volunteers from their non-disclosure agreements.
That's the end of this, because he just switches to a slide that says the end. But let's take a look at this. So 3 years ago, in order to get in front of these allegations, Lynn had suggested that O.U.R. come out and be fully transparent and answer all the questions. Go beyond the minimum Form 990, which is the ProPublica, the money that's funneled into their nonprofits, the for-profits, all that stuff. Fully document all the fundraising pitches. They didn't do a damn bit of this. Not a damn thing. So tell me again how 3 years ago these allegations were stemming around, but now it's just a shock to everybody. It's a shock because Tim was going to announce a Senate seat run. Do you see what we're getting at here, people? You understand why this is so problematic? This has nothing to do with Tim supposedly going to announce a Senate seat run. That was a bunch of bullshit too. And please remember that these aren't right or left wing. These people make conservatives look terrible. I'll be honest, because these aren't conservative values. These are extremist, crazy propaganda, self-serving, extremist pushing people. These are not typical right or left wing at all. These are the extremists who believe in the insanity that they spew out of their own mouths. Cash. Hey, Rest Girl. Oh, Kate, you will not be disappointed. Lynn is incredible. He is straight to the point. It's not all this extra fluff. It's not all this anything like, but Lynn doesn't get enough credit. Like, people are using the whole thing of their dislike of Vice. Like, you know, because Vice is more progressive, I guess you would say. People would call it liberal media. It is what it is. It wouldn't matter if Fox reported on this. There's always going to be the people to come out and claim that it's not true. But this is not something that was under wraps. That's exactly, Wolf. That cop is a bigot. That cop refused to be a part of an LGBTQ parade. These people have extremist beliefs. These people push the QAnon conspiracy, the adrenochrome, the extreme beliefs on all ends of things. They knew this was going on. Now, did Jimmy Rex and those guys know that these allegations existed? I don't know. I don't know how close Jimmy was. But people like Eric, yeah. People like Glenn Beck, yeah. Tony Robbins, yeah. Tim Ballard, yeah. Catherine isn't shocked by this either. Catherine has been a part of Children Need Families and the scam that had in place all along. Oh, I'm so sorry, Band-Aid. I'm really proud of you because you are a warrior and a survivor. And just remember that there's people out here that are actually fighting to do something about trafficking. Not all of the people are scumbags like Tim Ballard and the rest of O.U.R. and, in my opinion, the Attorney General of Utah. In my opinion, if Governor Cox doesn't do it and he does not order an internal investigation into his own AG's office, he's involved in the bullshit too. In my opinion, he should never allow his Attorney General's office to continue to cover up this bullshit. This has gone on too long. The previous Attorney General stepped down because of allegations of criminal corruption. Now you have Sean in office over the last 10 years. Get somebody in there, clean house, and get it set straight. Well, they can't, though, because they're all connected to the church, and the church runs Utah, and then they would have to, oh, yeah, that would be a problem, right? They can't do it. You see what I'm saying? Yep. Yep, Autumn, exactly. She absolutely did, Shannon, in my opinion. You know, and here's the thing. Could she have some sort of Stockholm syndrome after being with him? They've been together since they were young. They met at BYU, everything of that nature. Could she have some of that? Absolutely. But when it comes down to it, she absolutely knew that these allegations were circling. Absolutely, Kay, 100%. Ugh. I'm going back up. If you have not seen some of the, oh God, there's some crazy shit with that abolitionist and the Operation Toussaint too. If you have not watched those and you want some cringe-worthy content, watch those. There's bootlegged copies on the internet. Those are if those don't say it all, God, y'all, sorry. I am normally my face isn't this lopsided. My face is swollen from my sinuses. I don't even pay attention to it until then I look and I'm like, oh God, I do look all lopsided, but I'm good. I do too, Kate. But again, you know, it's media. You got to kind of fact check still a little bit. I really hope so, Autumn. I have faith in him because the heat is on. You remember? Okay, here's the other thing. You're going to remember this too because you've been following this just like I have. When he came out and the investigative journalist, I think it was for KUTV, could have been one of the other news stations, was asking him, Governor Cox and Sean Reyes, when they were talking about the TikTok lawsuit that they were filing, when they put pressure on him to respond about the O.U.R. lawsuit that had just came down, Sean like stumbled all over the place and basically gave some half-ass response that was completely shaming the victims, in my opinion, and just ridiculous. Governor Cox stood there and looked mortified the entire time, in my opinion. And they claimed that they were going to come out and release a statement very soon after. It was over 2 weeks, I think, a week and a half at least. And silence, absolute silence. And now Governor Cox is talking about it. And again, I remind you, Sean Reyes, in order to get elected, so he was appointed as AG because of the corruption and the fraud. But when he finally took office, when he was running, he hired a private investigator to smear his opponents and release shit on his opponents through a private investigator. Meanwhile, there were allegations of Sean having issues with strip clubs and coke use himself. But he hired this PI to smear his opponents and got into office. The PI has given interviews. Actually, Lynn has some of them on his channel. Abso-fucking-lutely. Abso-fucking-lutely. There is a whole lot to do with that, Wolf Powers, in my opinion. I agree with you. There is a lot of cover-up going on. Absolutely. I agree with you on that. I don't think it came to light because of the Senate seat. I think that the allegations from the women were getting actual credibility behind it. People were starting to listen to the women, and the church was stuck in a place of, well, if President Ballard gave him that special blessing to do this, this is a big deal, a big, big deal. If they can prove that, I don't even know what the LDS church will do in that. I don't want to know. Well, Nana L, he's been in office for, Sean Reyes has been in office for 10 years. O.U.R. was started in 2013, so 10 years, in my opinion, on that. But the previous AG for Utah stepped down, resigned because of allegations of criminal corruption, too. Oh, absolutely. And the church wants power in the presidential seat, in my opinion, too. I think Project 2025 plays into this, too. Yeah, AKA the cat lady. That is true, too. Yep, there has not been any confirmed children trafficking cases out of Utah. Yep. According to Lynn's journalism, yeah. Oh, y'all, we have barely touched the tip of this iceberg. I'll have to look into more of that Band-Aid. 10 years too long, absolutely. I think they'll let him fall, but I think they need to, in my opinion, this is just my opinion on how I see some of this. They have to keep Sean Reyes in office to protect some of their wrongdoings. Honestly, if they move Sean out of the way and an internal investigation is opened up, you got to remember there has been a lot of internal issues with the LDS Church in Utah and litigation that has kind of magically disappeared. Oh, thank you so much. Yes. Yes, we need to connect. Sorry, difficult. I've been all over the last week and a half, but we definitely need to connect. You guys, please sub up to Difficult Research. She does a wonderful job too. Wonderful job. Yeah, they've got to keep some of these pieces in play. Like in the LDS Church, I don't think people understand. Like there is being LDS and being a Mormon, but it is nothing like the LDS in Utah. It is a totally different world. If you are a Mormon in another state, it is one thing. But if you are LDS in Utah, it is a totally different thing. It is a way of life. It is who you are, what you eat, breathe, the pursuit of being the perfect Mormon, and like this outwardly, it's twisted as absolutely. The cat lady, I will. Oh, Wolf, you haven't? Oh God. If you are just getting into that, oh, that he is an embarrassment, in my opinion. Yeah, Kate, it's really sad. It's really, really sad. But they do control everything in Utah. It is money, power, and the church's desire to have people in political office is a big thing too. I mean, Mitt Romney was a Mormon too, but he's not a very like well thought of Mormon in those extremist circles, I guess you would say. He's too normal conservative for a lot of people. He's like old school conservative, and these guys have that new school QAnon, Pizzagate, bullshit extremist belief systems. It's actually really dangerous. It's really scary, and I'm so thankful to be out of Utah. It feels so good to be away from there. But let me tell you, it's extremely damaging. Yes, difficult. I can't even imagine the connections, like looking at things with your family's story too, and the connecting pieces and the players involved in this. Like that from a personal level, I don't know if I could do it because it is so corrupt from start to finish, and the cover-ups and the extremist beliefs, like they are promoting these harmful tactics that are ending up harming and killing kids. They're not helping people. The abuses of the Boy Scouts to the extreme belief systems and the wisdoms of, visions of glory and the conferences. Tim is still on the calendar to speak at some Mormon events coming up in 2024. I don't know if he'll still be there or not, but hey, Scorpio. 140%. One of the 144. God. Hey, by the way, if you need me to go get footage of the lady in Mesa, I'll do it for you. I'm right here. I saw that. I was watching your replay. I was like, oh, that one is way close. I could go take pictures outside the courthouse. This shit's just, y'all, the conspiracies and the chaos around all of this is so deep. Yeah, I like John. I like Jordan and McKay. They all have their different thing, but here's the thing. Like, one thing that's hard for me is a lot of ex-Mormons, like practicing ex-Mormons, well, not practicing ex-Mormons, people that have left the church. They kind of talk over a lot of laymen's heads, and they're not really good at breaking it down to make it understandable for people that don't understand the ins and outs of the Mormon church. They do a really good job, but still, even then, like breaking it back all the way sometimes to like make it understandable for people that have no idea of what the Mormon church in Utah looks like. It gives such a different perspective because Utah Mormonism is so different than anywhere else. It is so different. Oh yeah, the troubled teen industry, that's becoming a whole thing. Yep. Yeah, that's becoming a big money market. We have one here that one of the Frankie children were sent to. That's right over here, and it's got Mormon ties. Y'all, I can't even tell. It is. Yes, Yulie Jade. That was with Lauren from Hidden True Crime. Great deal for sure. Are experiments allowed to get tattoos, and are they usually mentally messed up and don't know what to do with their lives? Am I an experiment, Mike? And yes, I absolutely have tattoos. Lots of them. And I love them. Mentally messed up? Fuck, it's just a Friday, dude. Don't get too worked up about it. And I know what to do with my life. Make fun of people like that make comments like that. There's some really good, yeah, there's a lot of good. Oh, difficult research. Jarrett Brooks. That's that missing young man from the White Mountains, too. I didn't even. Are they a Mormon family? I didn't even look into that difficult. Do you know? That would make sense if they are. Their kids are homeschooled. I didn't go that far. Oh, now a light bulb just went off in my head. Oh, Nana L, it's so terrible. Actually, I know people that work in a few of those places in Utah, and it is crazy. Probably them and their 15,000 alts. I'm gonna have to look into that difficult now. I'm gonna. Oh, no shit. See, fuck. Oh, why didn't I think about that? I didn't even go that far. I just saw a missing young man. Oh, okay, yeah. Now my head even spins more. Yeah, there's actually a lady called the Tattooed Mormon who is very active in the Mormon church, and she is covered in tattoos. Like, it ain't gonna bother me. None of you are gonna bother me. Even the one that said in the chat just not long ago that she was gonna come for me. Buckle up. I ain't scared of you or any of your little peon lying buddies. Not at all. I predicted everything that was gonna happen today, yesterday. Catch up, people. Oh, this is some shit. Yeah. Yeah, that's Eric. That's Kay. That was Eric Moutsos, the bigot himself. I'll give him credit that he is like coming out and saying something finally, but here's my problem with that. The only reason he came out and said something is because his salvation and his standing within the LDS church. When the LDS church came out and actually said something, then it was like, okay, you have to pick a side. Either you're going down on the ship with Tim Ballard or you're going to pick the side of the church. He picked the side of the church. It's about the money because he's got to continue to have that Mormon support for his ventures. Now, remember, he's not a cop anymore. So he's got to have that whole money piece rolling in. And for him, that's more important to keep alignment with the LDS church and be in their good standing than it is for Tim. I hate to say it. It has nothing to do with beliefs beyond. Yep. Yulie, who knows? Right. Right. Difficult. Yeah. Absolutely, Autumn. 100%. Yep. because people in Utah genuinely think he's a hero. That's how he's made into. He's made into this heroic figure in Utah, that he is this God sent down, that he is the second coming of Christ. Like, he is this man on a plan and nobody will pay attention to him, and Department of Homeland Security and the FBI, and nobody will help his mission. And he has been fighting so hard. Yes, sadly, yes. And the media companies that are owned by the LDS Church help promote this bullshit. All of these MLM companies, the fundraising machine, the wealthy, that is such a tight-knit group. It is small. The upper echelon is a very tight-knit group that, yeah. It's bad. Yeah, well, there is no evidence right now. Like, people keep saying, like, well, he did this and this and this. The only thing that we know is they claim that they brought in 223 children through their Children Need Families offshoot of O.U.R, which was Catherine's venture. They gave 145 grants for around $20,000, but nobody's ever been clear, and you can't track the money on it either. So are those the kids that they saved? The 223? I mean, or bought? In my opinion. Yep, absolutely. Okay. Yep, that's exactly what they do, though. Just repent. You can continue to do it. That's the... I agree. Oh, difficult. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Any word on Tylee's? Are they going to let you guys have Tylee's remains? God, I can't even imagine the hell you've lived through for the last few years. Autumn, I'm curious too. I'm curious if an investigation is underway. You know, we wouldn't know a lot of that stuff, but the other thing I'm wondering is if there wasn't complaints in other countries made against O.U.R. That's something else that I've been really trying to track down and see if there's any way of finding the complaints that were filed in other countries. Because in one of the interviews that Tim gave, he claimed that officials in Haiti the cops turned on him and started following him. There's just something to it that just doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, absolutely, Kay. Absolutely, Wolf. Agreed with that. Yes. Hey, Shopaholic. Hey, Gia. Yeah, yeah. And repairs the brains of, yeah. Difficult. That's terrible. Yeah, you do a great job. You're a fierce advocate for your family and others, many others, and I appreciate what you're doing so much. I'm sure it's exhausting, emotionally exhausting, like having the connecting piece to it. That's a whole nother part. Hey, BJ. Which reminds me that my mom was a dark spirit. God. Absolutely. Can they remove her from the zombie hit list, right? People think this shit's a joke too. It's not, y'all. This shit's scary. Like, the extremes that this is going to and the connecting pieces between the church and the harm and the politics and all of this shit happening in Utah, this isn't going to stop. This is not just a fluke that these things have been happening over the last couple of years. It's becoming more prominent. And what do we see? It just keeps increasing, and more horror stories are going on every day. Yeah, cat lady for sure. Yes. Absolutely. Thank you, Kay, so much. Thank you. Thank you, Nana L, for sharing that. All right, y'all, I got to get off here. My face is starting to hurt. It's starting to swell a little bit more. The more I talk, the more I swell. So I'm like trying not to talk a whole lot. I think we're going to do the next piece of it that we're going to do. I think we need to highlight Tony Robbins. Tony hasn't been getting any attention off this. I think that's who we need to highlight. And I've been in that rabbit hole for a long time. And I am probably going to throw you guys a ringer and throw in some of the Lemus situation over the next couple of days too. I'm going to the doctor tomorrow, so I'm good. I'll be good. Okay. Trigger warning. If any of you are queasy to your stomach, log out now before I tell you what I got, how I got some of the swelling down. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Autumn. Thank Lynn Packer. We need to be thanking Lynn Packer. Lynn is the hero in all this. I just lucked out and found things that make sense and things that actually I've been talking about. And I'm like, God, here it is. He's been talking about this for years, people. Okay. So, and this is how I got these to drain. So it started, I told you guys it was pushing down into my gums and like really irritating. It felt like an abscess. So I ended up taking one of those dental floss picks and I cut the edge of my gum, which I probably shouldn't have. But it was so built up in there and that skin was just pushing down and down and down further and further and further, like an abscess on a tooth, but it's not. It's just from my sinus cavity. Okay, here's the gross part. I got it opened up, just a little corner of it, and it like exploded. And infection in blood, just it was terrible, but it's still like you can see it's refilling again. But yeah, it was madness, but it feels better now. It just stings because I have a cut in my gums, but it did relieve some of the pressure finally, so that felt better. But it was disgusting. It was real gross, but that's part of life. We just keep going. Don't do it at home. Do not suggest anybody do it at home. Absolutely difficult. I think that would be great. Tomorrow, I'm going to the ENT tomorrow, y'all. It definitely, it definitely felt better. So, okay, y'all, you guys have a wonderful rest of your Friday. Just a word on the other situation. This has nothing to do with Tim Ballard. This has to do with drama and crazy people doing crazy things. I said what I said yesterday, and I stand on what I said yesterday. There will be no back and forth. I'm over that bullshit. Have been for months. Don't care. Don't want nobody's drama. The lies and the continued chaos I called out yesterday. I knew it was coming. I'm not shocked by any of it. I know how these people move. I don't care. Just keep it away from me. That has nothing to do with me. Their lies and ignorance ain't nothing to do with me. So that's all I got to say on that. There will be no more discussion about it. Once you lie to me and you disrespect me to the point that I've been disrespected lately by quite a few people, there ain't no coming back. It's just what it is. Like, I don't have to talk about it all. There's no big deal about it. It's just not worth my time. So we're over the drama. We got shit to talk about, people. That actually matters. Okay. I'm off now. Bye. Oh, hi and bye, headstones. I hope you guys all have a wonderful day. Go do something fun this weekend. Touch some grass. Flood your backyard like Kyle did. Kyle flooded our backyard last night on accident. But it's 102 today, so difficult. We will connect too. And y'all, if you've emailed me or messaged me, please understand it has been too, like, I say this all the time, but I'm just like, it has been just a juggling act of chaos over here. So thank you all for joining me. But please understand, like, I'm not ignoring any of you on purpose. I just can't keep up. Between being sick, little ones, they start full time next week. I'm so excited. So they will be gone for a bigger block of time. And I'm so excited. Oh, thank you. Much endeavors. Thank you so much. Is it Gia? That's great. I love fall for sure. I miss home, actually. You're going to make me miss home. All right. See you all later. Have a wonderful day. Kay, thank you again for the super chat. I appreciate it. Oh, and by the way, I'm not going to name names because it's her real name, but somebody sent me a $5 PayPal the other day and just out of the blue, and it was really sweet. So to you, thank you so much too for that. That was really appreciated. All right. With that, have a great day, y'all. Please go check out Difficult Research before I forget. Headstones and Headlines is in here too. She's got a channel. And don't forget my love interest beyond Kyle, Mr. Lynn Packer. Please go sub up to him. Don't tell him I have a crush on him either. Okay. Bye. Oh, shit. One more thing. Kenzie wants to know, do you guys want her to do her makeup tomorrow on my other page, or
we'll do it either Saturday or Sunday?
Saturday or Sunday. I'll put a poll. Can I do a poll on my other page? I don't know if I have a community tab. I'll put a poll up and you guys can decide when you want her to do your makeup. She's going to do it on my page, on my other page, not this one, on my backup page. If you guys don't know, my daughter, my adult daughter does makeup. So anyways, that's what we're talking about. All right. Now I'm officially out. Okay, bye.